On September 12th, 2023, I departed from Pittsburgh and flew about 9 hours via Newark and Panama City to Manaus, Brazil. I met Greg Causey in Panama, and we flew the rest of the way to Manaus. Jerison met us at the airport, and we took an Uber to the hotel. We finally arrived around 4 a.m. in our hotel, so we slept only 3 or 4 hours before getting up on September 13th to begin our day. We Ubered to the boat docks to catch a public boat to Cambiche village. This trip takes less than an hour by boat, but we also had to drive about 45 minutes after taking the boat part of the way. The dry season was very severe in Brazil, and most of the small streams we took boats on in the previous rainy seasons are now dried up. So driving where possible and walking part of the way are required instead of riding a boat up to the church buildings from the big river. On the evening of September 13th, after resting in the afternoon, we had a service in the town center outside. There was a nice crowd to hear us preach. My message was on conditional grace, showing them we are saved by grace through faith, but our responsive obedience is expected by the Lord. Greg taught on avoiding the leaven of the hypocrite and the world. They all responded to both messages by standing and receiving the word and praying to follow through in obedience. On the 14th, we held a morning chlorine generator training at the pastor's house for those planning to start a safe water project. 4 sets of equipment were distributed to reach an additional 12,000 people with safe water and the gospel. Jerison did the training, and he also gave the pastor a good supply of vitamins for both children and adults that he had brought with him. In the afternoon, we departed for the next church. We rode on a boat for about a half hour to an earthen dam they had built midstream to keep the water level higher near their village during the dry season so they can still use their boats. We got out at the dam and waited for a second boat to pick us up to go to the church where the evening service was in Terra Preta. It was about another hour by boat to this church. It is the place where the very steep bank now has improved steps with railing up from the riverbank to the church. Last year we had difficulties here. On the way we saw 40 alligators along the banks of the waterway, all different sizes, and we counted them all. Jerison distributed 4 more chlorine generators for new projects near Terra Preta. The pastor has already been trained on the equipment, so he will train the people at another time. Another 12,000 new people will receive safe drinking water and the gospel. Jerison also gave the pastor a good supply of vitamins for both children and adults. Greg and I both preached in the service. I shared the message about conditional grace. Greg spoke on the mission of the church from the Gospel of John chapter 20. Everyone responded to the messages. They all came forward to commit to being obedient disciples by grace, not hypocrites who are just church attendees. We had about an hour boat ride back to Paulo's house, arriving by 10 p.m. It was very dark on the Amazon. The only light we had was from a flashlight that a man held in front of the boat. On September 15th, we had no daytime meetings. The evening service, where both Greg and I preached, was held at Paulo's church building. I continued my message on conditional grace. The small group who attended responded by almost all of them coming to the front to make the commitment to live by grace through faith and to obey everything Jesus taught us. Greg preached on dependency upon the living God. After giving his testimony as a cancer survivor, he prayed for all of us to continue in faith even when difficult times come upon us. On September 16th, we went about 30 minutes to another church, walking part of the way and by boat part of the way to Sol Nascente to do an afternoon chlorine generator training before the evening service in that church building. Jerison trained the group that came. He distributed 7 more sets of equipment that will reach 21,000 new people with safe water and the gospel. Jerison also distributed both children's and adults' vitamins. I also gave Jerison $2,000 more for additional chicken microloans. Then Greg preached on Matthew 24:36-39 and many other scriptures concerning the second coming of the Lord. After that message, I preached on conditional grace. This church was very enthusiastic in their praise and worship and in receiving the Word of God. They were hungry to please the Lord, and they all came forward to commit to being obedient disciples of Jesus Christ by grace and faith, and not disobedient church attenders. On September 17th, I returned to Manaus by public speedboat before returning to the airport after midnight. Paulo's son, Paulo Jr., escorted me on the boat, made sure I got to the hotel, and even came to get me at midnight to go to the airport by Uber. Greg was scheduled to stay 2 more days to continue his ministry. We had a fruitful trip. There were some challenges along the way in this difficult environment, but the Lord takes care of us. On September 18th, at about 3 a.m., I am scheduled to depart to Panama City, then Newark and Pittsburgh. Thank you for praying for us, and your offerings keep us going to the nations. Love and blessings, Chuck King, Frontier Harvest Ministries of Ford City, Pennsylvania.